once upon a time, people got a job at 22, stayed for 4 decades, collected a pension, and rode off into the retirement sunset. Our parents, our grandparents, they lived that story, but we don't. We can't. And honestly, most of us are not very interested. We don't want to, because the world changed and so did we. If you've ever whispered, is it too late? Am I crazy? Do people really start over in their 40s and 50s? This is your sign, your second opinion, and your permission slip. Today, we're talking midlife career change, the who, what, where, why, and when. And yes, a little bit about my story as well. I'm Rosemarie Beltz, perfusionist, medical journalist, your host, and today it is just you and me, my friend. This episode sets the stage for December's guest, career strategist, Seyran Akrawi, who has a very grounded take on changing careers in midlife. But before Seyran joins us, I want to talk honestly about starting over when you're not 25. Can anybody relate out there? Because depending on your line of work, ageism is real. Being too old's a thing, being too young is a thing. Sometimes you feel both on any given day. But before we go there, just a super quick favor. If conversations like this help, hit follow, like, or subscribe wherever you're listening. It genuinely supports the show and our mission to reach 1 million midlifers. And listen, if this isn't your vibe later, you can always opt out, truly. You don't have to like me or agree with me. I'm just some random stranger on the internet sharing what I've lived and learned. So right now, I'm going to focus on what I am grateful for. I am grateful that you are here spending and investing your time with me. Okay? So let's dive into it. Let's move on. How do we get here? Let's do a quick little news frame. For most of U.S. history, a successful career looked like this. Enter the workforce in your early 20s, right? Give or take after school or any kind of college or training. You stay with one employer for 30 or 40 years, 30 to 40 years. You earn a pension and you retire at 65. Pretty safe to say, right? That model unraveled, especially in the last decade or so. More women are entering the workforce, faster industry turnover, pensions are fading, and we got to talk about technology because that's really reshaping the entire field, right? Hello, AI. And job tenure shrinking to all-time lows. Here's the data. The U.S. Bureau of Labor reports the median time with a single employer is 3.9 years, the lowest in decades since 2002. 3.9. Not 40 years, not even 4 years. Translation: if you've job hopped a bit, jumped more than once, you are not unstable or flaky. Turns out you, my friend, are statistically normal. You are not the exception. You are the new rule. Let's have a little bit of a listener check-in. So if the old model never fit you, that's not failure. It's a sign your story just needs a better genre. So who's changing careers? This is not a 20s trend. Nope. It is a midlife movement. Some say, let's say, revolution. Midlife career change, the stats. Okay. So I don't want to bog you down by too many numbers. However, sometimes the numbers add a little bit of perspective, especially if you are listening and you're feeling a little stuck. So roughly 1 in 3, okay, 1/3 of people aged 45 to 55 change careers each year. 49% of all professionals made a major career change in the last decade. The average age for a big pivot is 39. And most people change careers 3 to 7 times in a lifetime. Nearly half of midlifers are considering a change right now. So, statistically, if you're listening, you might be feeling a little, uninspired by your current situation. And maybe you are wondering Is it too late? Nope, you're early. Midlife isn't a crisis. It is a correction, right? It is not this, end of the world that, television and movies make it out to be. It's a time where we can reflect, check in, and start making some changes, right? It's the moment you stop living the story you were handed and instead start living the life that you choose. So let's do a little micro reframe. You're not starting over, you're starting from experience. Two very different narratives. And why is this happening? Here's the thing that no one tells you: midlife does not break you, it reveals you, right? We've got all this life experience is really showing us what we're made of, right? And what we're all about. When people switch careers at 40 to 50, the reasons go deeper than "I need a change." Like, think about it. If this is resonating with you, these changes and reasons sound more like "I'm burnout, I'm undervalued, I'm in a toxic culture, I want flexibility, I need my work to mean something." I feel like, me personally, that's what hit home for me and a lot of people that I talk to. And last, I've outgrown the old version of me, right? We outgrow relationships, we outgrow clothes, styles, music. So, why should our career be anything different? And the data is backing it up. 76% of workers want flexible or remote options. 50% plus of voluntary career changers report better mental health, and workers between 45 and 54 who switch voluntarily see a 7.4 wage growth, often higher than younger employees. So it's almost like the hero's journey, right? You could be the missing piece in someone else's puzzle and you don't even realize it. This isn't throwing away what you've built, it's about building on what you already know. You don't got to burn down your whole life, and you're not going to do that. You're just renovating that. I'm going to say that just because I moved into a new space, and that's what I'm doing right now. I'm not really renovating, but I'm constructing. Try this. Name one task that energizes you and one that drains you. Your next chapter should include more of the first thing, right? What energizes you. And I'm going to start sharing a little bit here. Okay. So this phrase kept going over and over in my head. Well, actually, I said it a lot so I could convince myself, full disclosure, that I wasn't starting from scratch. I was starting from experience. I played this over and over again because it's a big commitment to change, especially when you invest time, right? I had many years of school. I had many years of school debt that I had finally paid off between undergraduate, graduate school, uh, perfusion school. So it's no laughing matter, right? And I then took different classes, different certifications. I got really clear on what I didn't want. And for me, that led to journalism. I had no interest in being a guru or teaching anyone, although I did coaching programs and certification programs to master certain things for my own life, whether it was meditation, nutrition, um, even sailing, scuba diving, like all these things to learn a little more about myself, get out of my comfort zone, conquer my fears. But for me, it was really clear. I saw a lot when I was in the hospital, and it was journalism for years. I am a news junkie. I love information, and I wanted to get people the information they needed to help them make better choices. I wanted to write, I wanted to report, I really wanted to tell health stories that helped. And at the time, my current job as a full time perfusionist, school really wasn't possible. It was a challenge between a lot of call we have to take, very early mornings, nights, weekends, holidays, very long, unpredictable days. I wasn't lazy. I just had no margin, to be fair to a team. And because, when you're the member of a team, everybody has to carry their own weight ideally, and uh, it just wasn't a match. So I had to do a really scary thing. I left being a full-time staff perfusionist and I became an independent contractor. I had no benefits, no pension, no guaranteed salary, no retirement, no safety nets. Um, and I also had now taken on more tuition, right? I still had a budget, bills just like everybody else. But here's the thing that I had freedom. And anybody uh, who has a professional job or any job actually, um, freedom is usually the last on the list of priorities. But stepping outside of a traditional role as an employee, like a traditional W-2 employee, gave me time. It gave me the freedom to go to class because I took every night shift, I took every holiday, I took every weekend. I, in some way, had the freedom to be myself at 40. But I also knew it was temporary, right? I had to do all these uncomfortable things that in midlife, you really have gotten past budgeting, right? I mean, we all have to budget, but for the most part, you're set in your career. You've, moved up a little bit. And I thought, I had to put some things on hold, but it was worth it, right? I didn't throw away my expertise. I still stayed in the game. And my 20 plus years in healthcare became my street cred in the newsroom. Perfusion didn't disappear. This career that's very mysterious to so many people. It's very important, but very misunderstood. It actually lifted me and supported me in so many ways. Even though there was a time I felt trapped by it, it really was my lifeline to get me to the next chapter. I just had to be a little bit creative. And I left a staff position really way before it was very in fashion to do this. Back when I left and became a contractor, and went a little rogue. It wasn't very common in my profession to do that, but I took a risk. I was very much a naysayer. People would say, well, go part time. And I'm thinking, I'm not in business. I'm not an attorney. I'm not a CPA. I can't set my own hours. I'm really at the mercy of the heart surgery schedule. But you know what? I made it work and it did all pan out. It wasn't easy, but I did it. And the reason why I'm sharing this with you is because I want to encourage you to think outside the box as well. So now, after almost 30 years in healthcare, I get to add another layer. This podcast, Second Opinion, where science meets story, where we have evidence meets experience, and midlife meets reinvention. That is a sweet spot. I'm still working in the hospital. I still show up. My team relies on me. And I'm going to say my chief is wonderful. I actually hit the lottery when it came to perfusion jobs in New York City. Again, I'm not humble bragging. Because I don't get special treatment. There's no shortcuts. There's no easy roads, right? I've earned every inch of this pivot, and you can too. Because here's the thing, I do believe that anything is possible when you show up and you're consistent for yourself and for other people. So, newsflash here. I'm going to go back to news for a second and pivot from the hospital. Let's focus on some micro permission here. So, you don't need universal approval. All you need is a workable plan and one brave next step. For me, it was nagging for years. I do know this. If something keeps nagging and whispering, eventually it becomes a truth you just can't ignore. I do know this as well. People rarely change when they're ready, let's say. They change when staying the same, it hurts more. If you're listening, I think you have an idea of this moment, right? The spark is gone in your life. Mondays feel heavy. Sunday scaries now spill over to the weekend. Your skills feel really unused. You really don't feel like you're living your full potential. And importantly, your values are very misaligned, right? You cannot picture another decade like this. This, I think, is when midlifers change. I mean, according to the data and according to personal experience and anecdotally, when I talk to other people who are looking to do that at this point in their life, who are actively working at career changes, this is what seems to be the driving factor. And it's never because the timing is perfect, and it's not because there's no fear, because there is a lot of fear, but it's because of the alternative. Staying stuck becomes absolutely unlivable. So let's do a little 1 minute gut check, okay? Just to reel us back in here. If nothing changed in 12 months, how would you feel? Right? It stings a little bit. Your future self is tapping you on the shoulder. Just think about if you right now are in the same exact space this time next year, right? If you're not growing, you're dying. Even if your situation is great, chances are you don't want to be in the same exact, unless you are in this utopia, but you probably would not be listening to this podcast, right? Just saying. And I know you're thinking money and time, right? Because they're a biggie. So we're going to go there, okay? I am by far a money expert, but I do know, as many people, is that anything, well, especially a career change, is emotional. It is not mathematical, right? Sometimes the math is not mathing. But I'm going to go back to a little more research because I found this to be interesting, and this might help you in case you're teetering on what to do. So, retraining is often less expensive. It's much more less expensive than we fear. Most midlifers fund pivots with patchwork, right? Savings, side gigs, lifestyle trims, right? Partner support or temp work. Job switchers see on average about a 35% salary increase over 3 years. Voluntary changers report better mental health and more flexibility. And when you have better mental health and more flexibility, right, that's going to motivate you to do other things. A 60-year-old who changed jobs in midlife is 8% more likely to still be employed later than someone who never changed. I always say you are more employable when you already have a job. And a personal note, I never want to be that person who holds on to a job because no one else is going to hire me, right? I see this a lot in healthcare. Longevity favors reinvention, not stagnation. You do not want to be that other person at work. We all know them, we all work with them. And quite frankly, they're a bit of a drag and they can pull down everybody around them. And that's usually why other people want to move on, is because of those people. We don't want to be those people. It's less, quote, can I afford change? And more, can I afford to be here exactly like this for 20 more years? Because we're all getting older anyway, right? Time's going to pass no matter if you grow or if you die. So, wouldn't you want to take small movements that are going to actually compound to be something more favorable? Because when you start thinking about it that way, right, it's much more inspiring. And if you are worried about money, start running the numbers, right? Write down that monthly number that you need, right? Your runway. How many months can you stay afloat? And then 3 ways that you can start shrinking your expenses. I know for me, it was subscriptions, right? And Apple is really good for that. No, what am I trying to say? I'm not trying to throw shade at Apple because I am on Apple's podcast, but we've got a lot of subscriptions that we don't even keep track of, or we don't even really need and we can do without. Pick up extra shifts at work, your side hustle, focus on little micro projects every single month. The money will start showing up when you start focusing your money and creating time. Another thing about time, it's not about finding time or finding money. You create it. So I'm not going to say this works for everyone because you might be listening and being like, this lady has no idea. But I know more than you think, right? I took out loans just like everybody else. I paid those off, right? Took out more loans, went to school, paid those off, and then went back again. But I hope this starts giving you, this little chat starts giving you some ways that you can think creatively. And you might be thinking, okay, yeah, I am ready, but how am I going to do this? Um, Again, this is just a broad guideline or outline to get you inspired. I keep using the word inspired because that word inspires me. All right, so reconnect with what matters, right? What are your values? Is it purpose, freedom, flexibility, creativity, stability, impact, family, travel, nature, your health, right? What are those things? Two to three things that really matter to you. Study the landscape, job postings, industry news, salary ranges, podcasts. I love YouTube University and podcasts because there are a lot of really smart people sharing information. These are not famous people. These are just people who live life a little bit and who want to create content in the world. Very generous people who do want to make a difference. And so don't discount those free things because I use those things. Actually, I will tell you, as many programs and courses that I've done, there are podcasts that I listen to religiously that I've gotten way more out of than some of these paid programs and subscriptions. And ask, keep going back to what drains me and what makes me feel alive. Like, keep checking in with yourself and asking these questions. They will reveal a lot. Now, third, tap into your network. Chances are you already know someone who knows someone who's doing what you're doing, right? Reach or who's doing what you want to do. So reach out. Just ask them, how do you do it? How did you do it? What would you do first if you were me? People reach out to me all the time in the hospital who are interested in going back to school for, say, perfusion. Or then there's other clinicians who are looking into podcasting or outside of healthcare, right? So, how do they utilize their medical talents elsewhere? And then test the waters, right? Maybe you don't quit your job tomorrow. Some can, and great for them, but most of us can't. But again, I'm going to go back to you're always more employable when you are working because I really feel like you're not desperate, right? When you have options, I feel like you function at a higher vibration. So focus on those, micro projects, one class or a certification, volunteering, weekend workshops. Focus on those little things that you can put on your portfolio or to improve your skills. And then also explore internal opportunities. I mean, even at hospitals where people have very defined roles, there's always opportunities. So check your email, check your spam folder. I know recently came across a couple of things that I was surprised. They're very encouraging people if they want to go back to school, it's your doctorate or a master's degree, or even if you are at a lower level job, if you want to go back for your master's, there's a lot more internal opportunities if you just ask. And they might not even be posted. You might have to reach out to supervisors and things like that. Lateral moves, you can do other things or special projects that might get you into a new department. Many people in healthcare are pursuing MBAs and moving into administrative roles, education, or industry. We're needed in those areas. And especially, like I was saying, with technology, you might have skills that are hard to teach people, your engineering, math, teaching. Look at your assets. and try not to focus on what you don't have and focus on what you bring. Chances are you have more of a story and you're a lot more valuable than you're giving yourself credit for. And tell a new story. Change up the narrative, right? Your resume, it's not a confession. It is a strategy document. Think of it a little bit differently and lead with transferable skills, leadership, communication, problem solving, your emotional IQ, right? Your pivot is a strength. It is not an apology. It is not a bad thing to want to move on. That's why I believe you really have to surround yourself with people like attracts like when you do take these workshops, different classes, or you want to expand your knowledge base. You're going to be surrounded by people that are looking for more opportunity like you are, right? And I'm not saying it's good to express this outside, but you do still want to be careful of your energy because we don't need any naysayers, right? Because we're already nervous about taking a risk. So you want to surround yourself with people that are going to be really supportive in that journey and not people that are going to bring you down. And pace yourself. Even though we're at midlife, it's still not a sprint. What I do know, and you probably know this too if you're in midlife, easy come, easy go, right? We know this because we got to this point. It was more like a marathon. And midlife reinvention, it's still the same. Little, small, tiny steps, right? Save, skill up, network, apply, adjust, rinse, repeat, basically because progress compounds, you're playing the long game here, right? Consistency adds up. I love watching great people. I know I always talk about Tom Brady. Not everybody loves Tom Brady, but you got to love the guy's work ethic. Like he always says, show up and consistently. He'll always say, that trumps talent because not everybody shows up and is consistent. We see it even at work in our daily, in our own departments and where we work, who's there to play the game, right? And a lot of us Gen Xers, we were raised by baby boomers and we were very feral. We were left to figure things out on our own. And a lot of us were raised with fierce work ethics. I would say most people who are listening to this podcast, I would say the majority, not all, we were probably all working at the age of 10, whether we could have a paper route, we were babysitters, we waited tables, we did any menial job that would hire us so we could have our own money. That really isn't any different in midlife. We were all a little scrappy at some point. Maybe not all of us, but you know what I'm saying. You get the point. You got to find that version of you that existed because they're still inside you and they're there and they're waiting for this next chapter. Okay, so let's do a little break it down, like even daily. Let's just say hypothetically, a little challenge for you listening at home or wherever you are on your commute or your run on the treadmill. So, say day one, right? Start running the numbers. Day two, reach out to someone, take 15 minutes, look for that informational chat. Day three, start drafting those skills, take out your resume, start drafting a little bit. Day four, maybe start researching some mini courses. Watch a tutorial, get on YouTube or explore some podcasts. Day five, start looking at some case studies, who's doing things that you want to do. Day six, start looking at those internal opportunities at work. Even if you're not happy with where you work, maybe if you start looking outwards into other departments, that might, put a little pep in your step a little bit. And then seven, just put yourself out there, start pitching yourself, apply yourself a little bit. The bottom line is that when you change careers in your 40s or 50s, you're not starting over. You've got all this life experience. You are starting elevated. You're starting with wisdom. You're starting with skills. You're starting with experience. And most importantly, emotional intelligence, which we all know is a skill, a skill that is not utilized, or I don't know. I feel like now, since COVID, we're realizing how important emotional intelligence is, but we have it at Midlife: courage and clarity. Midlife is not the end of your story. All right, so this podcast was a little longer than expected, but I hope you're, before we wrap, I hope I didn't lose you, but I'm going to give you, because I think reflection questions are useful. I always say that for me in journalism, the quality of my interview was only as good as the quality of my questions, right? Like, how are my questions different than another journalist? And I do believe the quality of your life is also determined, or is, what's the word I'm looking for here? It's kind of contingent on the quality of the questions that you ask yourself. So you're going to do a little self-coaching. If you did one brave 5-minute task this week, what would it be? Doesn't have to be long, but one brave thing. It could just be making that phone call or writing that email. 2, what would future you thank you for starting today? I love that one. And 3, what's the skill you're already using that does belong in your next role? Not to focus on what you don't have, but focus on the skills that you do have. You don't need a massive plan, just 5 minutes of courage and one small next step. If this helped you, follow, rate, and share. Just share this episode with one friend who's quietly wondering, is it too late? Your text to them might be their turning point. And again, if this is not your jam or not your vibe later, right? You can always opt out. There are no hard feelings. But most of all, thank you. Thank you for sharing your time with me today. You could be anywhere, listening to anything, anyone, and instead you chose to be here with me today. This means more than you know. I'm Rosemarie Beltz, and this is your second opinion, where science meets story and age is your advantage. See you next time.